1, 2, 3, 4. Practice counting. This is gonna help. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. All right. So you know you're supposed to practice with a metronome, but every time you do, nothing really happens, or you don't seem to be getting better. It's really common for people to say things like, I just play over the top of the metronome and it gets in my way, or I just can't play with the metronome because it's way too distracting and it's messing me up over and over again. If this sounds like you, then you are not alone. This is a super common problem that almost everybody has, and it's just because nobody's properly shown you how to count correctly or how to use the metronome. You just got to understand the concepts here and then spend the time actually practicing them. And then before you know it, you'll be able to use that metronome to help you with your rhythm playing and everything else. So there's just 3 steps that you need to know, and we're going to go over all that right now. So make sure you watch to the very end so you can get all the steps in order. All right, step 1 is to get yourself a standard metronome, okay? Now, you might be wondering, well, should I get one of those, analog ones that has the pendulum that goes back and forth, or one of those visual ones that you see that you can look on your phone, or those vibrating ones that you can wear on your wrist? No, don't get any of those. Just get a standard metronome. And the best place to get it is in your app store on your phone, because all of us have our phones with us all the time. I use my metronome app probably more than any other app on my phone. And it is so convenient to have it right there. The other cool thing is that most of these apps are free. I'm not gonna recommend an exact one for you to get, but just go type in metronome or free metronome in your app store or whatever, depending on whatever phone you have, right? And then just get the first one. The one that I use looks like this. And it's a basic metronome, okay? It has this basic function where you can play and speed up. That's really all you need, okay? The reason we would just want a standard metronome and not one of these visual ones is because, remember, with music, everything is by sound, and we're not always gonna have the benefit of having a conductor, with a visual type metronome guiding us while we're playing. You need to be able to follow other musicians, you need to be able to follow a drummer, and the first step to that is being able to follow just a simple metronome. So you just want something that clicks. If you get something that looks like my app, that's great. This is my favorite one. I've had it for well over 10 years. Now that you have your basic metronome, let's talk about the absolute basics. So you have basic play, okay, and speed up function, slow down function, okay? This is called the BPM, which stands for beats per minute. Pretty easy to remember, okay? Now the first thing you need to know is just counting. Now when you have this thing going by, you're just gonna count along with it like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, and so on, right? Okay, now don't pass this. If you've never counted out loud, please just take a moment to, when you open your metronome app, just to count along with it. This is a really big deal. A lot of people actually do that when they're growing up and going in school, but I know a lot of you guys didn't have that opportunity, so you've never ever counted out loud to music like that. If you haven't done it, just do it every once in a while. It's going to help your playing. It's going to help your internal sense of rhythm. If you're struggling with rhythm and this is something you've never done, give it a shot, okay? Start counting. Very simple, okay? Try at a different speed. So here we have it at 80, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm gonna speed it up. Count a little faster. Here it is at 140, a lot faster. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, okay? That's basic counting with the metronome. Now, there's a lot of different things that you can count. You can count, basically we're counting on the beat there, we're counting quarter notes. So if you wanted to count faster, let's slow this thing down again to about 100. If you want to count faster, let's say you need to count eighth notes or something like that, you count basically like this. You add an and in between the numbers, so it sounds like this. Okay, so 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, please also count out loud as well. When you get your metronome, just practice counting out loud. There's a bunch of other subdivisions that we could talk about, but this is just the basics, so we're not going to get into that right now. The last thing I want to talk about with just the metronome stuff that you need to know is that also a lot of metronomes will have this
strong downbeat. So you notice now I have this click here, this first one here that I've adjusted, so it sounds different. This is that strong downbeat that we talked about before, okay? So that's where we have the 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Okay, that will help you identify where the downbeat, that's where the downbeat happens is on beat 1. That's where, the chords are going to be changing. That's where the new sections of music will be starting, always on the downbeat. So sometimes it's important to have that downbeat in your metronome, but it's actually just as good to practice without it. You don't need that in your metronome. I often will turn that function off. That way I can start and stop my practice wherever I want inside that measure. Okay, so that's counting with the metronome. Okay, very simple, but don't overlook it. Just please count out loud one time with it. Okay, now counting with the metronome is one thing, but learning to count with music is another thing, and that's what we're going to talk about next for step 2.
The next step is to learn how to count with actual music. If you can count with other people's music, then you'll be able to count with your music, and then your playing will inevitably get better. So when you're counting with music, the process is a little bit different because you have to first identify, number 1, what is the pulse? The pulse is just the beat. And it's just, how you would clap along with the music, or when you're dancing, you're finding the pulse. Second, you need to find where the downbeat is, where you're going to count beat 1, okay? Those are two different things. A lot of people can do that just naturally. Hopefully you'll be able to do that, but if you can't, I'm going to give you a bunch of tips here when we do this together so that you'll be able to do this on your own, okay? And so the first example here is going to be Stevie Ray Vaughan playing live. Okay, so this first one's kind of fast, so we'll go through the steps together. Okay, so as you can hear, this is a fast song, right? Okay, let's get the pulse first. That's step 1. We got to find out what the regular pulse is. Okay, so naturally, I'm just going to start tapping my foot. Okay, now if you can see, check out my foot. That's tapping the pulse. Hopefully you'll be able to catch this pulse too. If I clap along, just so you can kind of see, this is the pulse. Okay, now we got to find out where beat 1 is so we can know where to start counting. Okay, for that, we can listen to the bass player. When the bass player starts a phrase, when that bass player is starting a new phrase, that's where you start counting 1. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. You count. Out loud, please. 2, 3, 4. Keep that foot tapping. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now the cool part is you can actually see Stevie Ray Vaughan's leg. You can see this right here. Watch. 1, 2, 3, 4. He's tapping his foot too. Everybody taps their foot. This is something that you do to help keep rhythm. This isn't just something beginners do. Here you see Stevie Ray Vaughan on stage. Okay. There he is, tapping his foot. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Cool. I'm gonna fast forward here to a new song, and we'll check that one out. Okay. All right, this is the next one, okay? So this one, much slower. First, let's get that pulse. Can you clap along? Can you tap your foot? Look at the bass player. Tapping his feet. Check it out there. That pulse. Check out my foot. That's the pulse. Okay. Now you don't have to tap your toe. You can tap the back of your foot like this. A lot of people prefer that, and that's okay. Just get that pulse first. Okay. And let's try to identify where beat 1 is. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Can you count? 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to pause it for a moment and give you another tip on counting. A lot of people really struggle getting that downbeat, understanding where beat 1 is. Here's something that is going to help out a lot. in most blues music and kind of traditional, even classic rock and most stuff like that, most of the time the drum player will play the snare drum on beats 2 and 4. So you can really hear very easily the kick drum and the snare drum. Those are the two big drums those are the two main things that the drummer is going to play. The kick drum is the big bassy sounding one that he plays with his foot, hence kick. Okay, those are going to be on beats 1 and 3. The snare is going to be on beats 2 and 4. So it's going to sound like this: kick, snare, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so if you can identify where that snare is, you'll know where beats 2 and 4 are, and then you'll be able to more easily guess where beat 1 is. So let's listen for that kick and the snare here. Snare. 1, 2, 3, 4. Can you hear that snare? 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now you might be thinking, well, doesn't he play the snare more often than that? And yeah, they do, but the big hits are going to be on beats 2 and 4. 2. Hear where he's hitting that? That's just going to be something that you can use to help, okay? All right, let's take a look at another example now, another blues example. So on this one again, I'm going to count for you, and then I'm going to give you a little space to see if you can continue counting, okay? On the next example after this, I'm going to see if you can count by yourself without me, and then I'll give you the answer, okay? So let's back this up a little bit. This is Joe Bonamassa, Kenny Wayne Shepherd, Samantha Fish, Walter Trout. They're playing this song called Going Down. There's actually a bunch of other celebrities I've seen on stage here as well, but let's just jump right in and listen to it, okay? I'll give you a second to see if you can count it first. Listen for that kick drum, listen for that snare. First, get the pulse. A little slower, right? This is a rock song, but we're going fast, or going slow. Okay, check out my foot for the pulse. That's that pulse. Now look at the people on stage. Look at this guy over here. Walter Trout. He's really 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. See if any of the other people are tapping their feet. Yep. There goes Joe Bonamassa tapping his left leg. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right here. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. You count. Can you hear that snare on beats 2 and 4? 2. Got it, right? Make sure you count that foot. Tap that foot, count. 2, 3, 4. Look at him tapping his foot on stage. Right there. Now you count. Can you do it? Here it is. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Practice counting. This is going to help. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. All right, cool. All right. So hopefully you're getting this idea, right? It's, catch that pulse first and then start counting to 4. And new phrases that they play are going to start on the downbeat. Most of the time you should really focus your ears on to the kind of bass player. That's where he or she's going to start the phrases on beat 1, and the drummer is going to hit the kick drums on beat 1 as well. Okay, so it's kick, snare, 1, 2, 3, 4, kick, snare, kick, snare. Okay. All right, let's do one more example. This last example here is from a guy named Jake Andrews, who's actually one of my old teachers from Austin, Texas. Now, this guy is one of the very best players in town. One of the best players all around, too. And he's got a really great tone, but he's also a great teacher, too. So make sure to check out his page if you haven't heard this guy. You really should check him out. So on this example, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a lot of space to see if you can count first, okay? So remember, the first step 1 is to get the pulse. And step 2 is to see if you can identify where those kicks and snares are located at the hardest hits, okay? And see if you can count to 4, okay? If you're doing it right, the new phrases and new sections should line up right with the downbeat on beat 1, okay? So here we go. I'll back it up here to the beginning and then see if you can count. Listen for those drums. Get the pulse first. Get the pulse. Get that pulse. Let's see if you can count. Keep counting out loud. In a moment, I'm going to join you and see if you're doing it right. Okay? You're still counting out loud? Count out loud, please. Here we go. Because next time I'm going to start counting out loud. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Is this how you got it? Did you get this same time? This is the right answer, okay? So hopefully you're counting along with me. If you didn't catch it, okay, what I want you to do is try to rewind this and try again. See if you can get that pulse first and then start counting where the downbeat is. Okay? Do it one more time. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Kick, snare, kick, snare. All right, guys. Hopefully you're catching on to this. This is a really important lesson, and I hope that you guys are catching on to this and you're able to count. Now, you know, everybody says you got to practice counting and all this stuff like with the metronome, and yeah, you do, but that doesn't get you anywhere if you can't count with music. So that's step 2, is counting with other people's music, okay? Step 3 now is we're going to transfer that back to our music. So let's check that out. All right, great job so far, guys. This is the last step. We're going to talk about how we can now transfer all that stuff that we learned about tapping our foot and counting and transfer that into your own playing, okay? So let's just do an easy example first. We'll do just a shuffle example. Something that sounds kind of like this, okay? Just a real easy example so you guys know kind of how to use this process, okay? So first what we're going to do is just let's set the metronome up as if we've been practicing for a while, and we can already do that shuffle. So right now I have the metronome set at 100 BPM. And what we're going to do is just start to tap that foot with the metronome first, right? And then we're going to count like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. While you're doing those things, while you're tapping the foot and counting, you should try to count in your mind and then start to try to play the phrase. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and so on. Now that's pretty fast. So you might be wondering, but how fast should I play and practice songs? Well, the answer to that is as slow as you possibly can while still maintaining your mechanics. There's a lower limit on how slow something can be. If it's slower than that, then it's too hard to kind of keep a groove. Usually that's gonna be around 50 or 60. So this is what 60 sounds like, okay? Counting very slow. 1, 2, 3, 4. Tapping that foot along with it. 2, 3, 4. This is 60. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Slower than that, about 50, is about the bottom limit that I want you guys to be practicing with the metronome. Okay, because the spacing is too far out. There's too much space in between each click. It's hard to kind of know where that click's going to be. So it'd be something like this: 1, 2, 3, 4. Play along. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1,
3, 4. Okay, you get the idea. Slower than that, it would be too hard to keep the rhythm because the spacing between the clicks is too far away. So if you can't play something at 50 BPM, let's say you just learned a new song and you want to practice with the metronome, but you can't get it up to 50 just yet. So here's what you got to do. Take it in small sections, 1 or 2 measures at a time. Practice that until you have it memorized. Then try to very, very slowly go through and play all the notes in a row with the best rhythm that you can at a very slow speed without the metronome. Once you've memorized it and you feel like you can maybe get it up to 50, throw that metronome on at 50 and see if you can play along. And if you're able to play along at 50, practice that for a little bit, a couple days, a day or two, and then bump up the speed to 60. And then again, bump up the speed to 70. Don't bump up the speed though until you've successfully played the phrase that you're working on at least 6 times in a row without making a mistake. So that's 6 times in a row without hitting a wrong string or hitting a wrong note or making the wrong chord or not getting there on time. You want to have a bunch of times, at least 6. It would be better to be about 100 times in a row for you really to get that information transfer from your brain to your muscles really, really strengthened. More is better, but 6 is the minimum. If you can't do it 6 times in a row, do not bump up that metronome. You're not ready for it yet, okay? Remember, this is not just a beginner thing. Everybody does this at every level. So professionals do this all the time still as well. This is not just a beginner level thing. This is a habit that you want to start building now so that it becomes easier and easier in the future for you to practice timing and get better with your rhythm playing, okay? Thanks so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you guys on the next one.